Welcome to yet another video. My name is Valarie Waswa from Kenya, and today I'm going to be talking about all you need to know about the development sector, what is commonly known as the NGO space. So if you've ever been passionate about joining the NGO space, I know it may not be the most popular option for many people considering what is happening with USAID policies and all that, but I guarantee you the development sectors is one of the most rewarding and adventurous, fun careers to have. So if you've always wanted to venture into the NGO space, what is commonly known as the development sector, keep watching. This video is for you. So I would like to start by talking about what exactly is the development space. The development space or the development sector is that career sector that is specifically seeking to improve the socio-economic development. I'm using a word to describe the word of a country, of a community, of a society, of a continent, of the world. So just think about ending HIV, eradicating poverty, improving access to healthcare, providing aid to people who have been affected by floods, anything to do with making the world a better place. Just think Mother Teresa, just think Nelson Mandela, anything that is seeking to improve humanity, that is development sector in a nutshell. So now that you understand what the development sector is, I would like to venture into the categories of the development sector because some areas may appeal more to other people compared to others. So one of the categories is poverty alleviation. So basically that's just it. Poverty alleviation, reducing the rates of poverty among societies. Another one is education and skills training. So this could be providing access to education through scholarships for students to study in school, improving access to education. So all the way from kindergarten, primary school, it could be just providing good nutrition for kids and in school. It could be providing books and desks and textbooks for students. It could be in all the way to university to technical and TVET centers. Public health care. So this is everything to do with maternal health, everything to do with access to medicines, everything to do with vaccinations, infectious diseases like Ebola and how to control that, everything to do with accessing drugs for persons living with HIV and AIDS, etc. And then gender equality and women's empowerment. That is all things improving gender equality from women, men, LGBTQIA, to just ensuring that there's gender equity and reducing gender parity in all sectors. So whether it's in education, in career, in terms of equal pay, etc. Then there is sustainable development and environmental protection. So all things to do with climate change fall there. All things to do with climate adaptation, environmental conservation, mambo ya miti, everything hapo. ESG and all that, which is environmental, social, and governance. Yes, it's there. Then we have human rights and protection. So this is basically now putting your hands into advocating for human rights. Legal aid falls there. Human rights advocacy falls there. Policy advocacy falls under human rights. And also these things are really, they bleed into each other because when you are alleviating poverty, you're advocating for economic rights. When you're promoting healthcare, that is right to healthcare. So it's really like interwoven into each other. Then there's technology for development, where I am mostly involved in, very passionate about it, commonly known as ICT for D, that is tech for development. So think about it as using AI to improve access to healthcare, or using apps to improve access to menstrual information and etc. So everything that involves using technology to solve a social problem, that is ICT for D. Then we have economic development and job creation. So this could be in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of microfinance, SMEs, which is small and medium-sized enterprises, anything that involves creating jobs. So empowering entrepreneurs, providing capital funding and grants for small businesses so that they can scale up their businesses, or they can take off their ideas from idea stage to actualization. Then agriculture. See, agriculture everyone knows. So everything to do with smart farming, and you see smart farming again is ICT 4D. Anything to do with providing equitable access to fertilizers and providing even these fertilizers, everything in the agriculture from food to cotton farming to horticulture, everything there. So now that you know about what the development sector is, the categories and the examples under these categories, the next thing is now, what are the example of the jobs? Like someone would ask, Valarie, let's say I want to actually look for a job. Either you're venturing into this space right from university, or you're in another sector and you want to pivot. What kind of jobs should I be looking at? So I always say that the development sector is for anyone. You could have a background in engineering, you could have a background in social work, you could have a background in law like myself, you could have a background in quite about anything, psychology. So it's very transferable. It's a very transferable, like it's a sector where you can easily have transferable skills. So the first thing is a driver. Yeah. So most of this, especially for projects that involve around a lot of field work, they need a driver who will be moving from one project location to another. You could be a junior accountant. And these are both entry level, mid level, and senior career level opportunities. But specifically, I would like us to focus on entry level jobs, entry to mid level. HR professionals, where there are people, definitely we need to have people to manage these resources. Communication officers, where people are, we need to have communications. And communications is very wide. It could be media more, it could be social media, it could be communication for development. So anyone who comes from a journalism background, media background, information science background, social media, marketing background, public relations, communications would be the sector for you. So if you see any communications role like communications officer, nini, that's the role for you. Project managers, how organizations work or how the development sector works mostly is usually project based. So a lot of job opportunities are always open for project officers. So you will see titles like project manager, project officer, junior project assistant, junior project associate, projects lead, programs lead. So they just vary depending on seniority and expertise and level of experience. Finance officers, the development sector manages and handles lots of monies in millions of USD. So we need people who will help, in terms of financial reports, accounting reports, and everything of that sort. So even just managing payrolls for staff in the organization, etc. Graphic designers, so even organizations, entities in the development sector also need to create posters around their projects, their activities, their events. So if you are someone who is a graphic designer and you want to do something that has a more humanitarian, human rights, development work sector, you can, if you see graphic designer by, let's say, an NGO, by all means apply, or by like WFP, World Food Program, apply. Even in the UN, there is usually a lot of opportunities for this. Then there is administrative assistant, operations assistant, that is still under human resource. Translators, so if you're someone who has studied linguistics, if you know more than 2 languages, especially in the international development space, translators are very much needed. Research associate, monitoring and evaluation officer. This is really good for people who have a background in data analytics, data science, because how to interpret data and evaluate and see, has this project achieved what it was meant to achieve? That's the work of an M&E officer. Grants and fundraising manager, grants and fundraising officer, policy analyst, social worker, community health officer, partnerships associate, human rights specialist, legal officer, and the list goes on and on. So where exactly can we work? So the first one is international organizations and multilateral agencies. So this includes the United Nations. I think everyone knows the UN. So this could be UNICEF, it could be UNDP, UNEP, World Food Program, ITU. There are so many UN entities, by the way. Many people just know the common ones, but like there are so many UN entities out there. There's also the World Bank, IMF, International Monetary Fund, Africa Development Bank, FDB. Then next category is non-governmental organizations, commonly known as NGOs, public benefit organizations, community-based organizations, commonly known as CBOs, trust societies, etc. So this includes both international organizations and local organizations. So for international, this may be organizations such as Oxfam, Equality Now, Amnesty International, Femnet, Save the Children, just to mention the common ones that people know. Then the local organizations and grassroots organizations are organizations like Hugo's Digital, Crew, I've just forgotten the word in full, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, etc. Then the next category is government and public sector. Government and public sector is ideal for people who want to work more around regulation and all that. So hawa ni watu wa gava. So this could be ministries. Everyone knows ministries of governments, right? Ministry of ICT, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health. Or you could work in national aid agencies of these ministries. So that could be the international governmental agencies such as USAID or USAID, FCDO for UK, GIZ for Germany. Then we have the private sector. So maybe this is really ideal for people who lean more towards like social enterprise, business acumen. Like you still want to make profit, but you also still want to create an impact. So this is the area for such people. Private sector and social enterprises have said business acumen. So this include consulting firms. Consulting firms, there are firms that do consulting services for the social impact development sector. So this include Dalberg, McKinsey, Social Impact Department, Boston Consulting Group, etc. There's also impact-driven businesses in Kenya. There are those like M-Copper, there's Trigger Foods, though it closed down. There's LX. I don't know if you guys know LX. I highly recommend you guys to actually go check them out. Then there's also the academic and research institution. So you'll be like, Valarie, okay, I'm very passionate about the development space, but I want to do research. I want something that involves the academia. Don't worry, there is a sector for everyone. So under the academia, this includes think tanks like Brookings institutions, ODI, Kiktanet, and also there's university-based research institutions like CPIT for Strathmore. Alright, next we want to go to common terminologies that are used in the development sector. Why is this important? It's a very niche space, right? So for example, let's say if you're going for an interview, there are certain terminologies that will be used in those interviews, and if you don't know them, then it shows that you don't have exposure in the space. And also it just makes you to really fit into the sector even better. Number one, there is Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as SDGs, and these are 17 global goals that were created by the United Nations to sort of provide a framework of what should be achieved by countries by the year 2030. There is also the term capacity building. Capacity building is very different from training. So capacity building is more of like strengthening already existing skills for individuals, for organizations, for companies, for communities. Then stakeholders. Stakeholders are very common terminology in the NGO, in the development space. So what would commonly be known as partners, or partners is more common in the private sector space, but in the development space we call them stakeholders, because our goal in the development space, our currency is not profit, our currency is impact. So stakeholder engagement just means the different partners that come on board to ensure that a project or activities become successful. So from the implementing organizations, the community, the local administration, the donors, etc. And then we also have a term called MEAL. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It started with M&E, which is monitoring and evaluation, and right now is MEAL, MEAL. So M&E, monitoring and evaluation, MEAL, monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and learning, is basically a terminology that is used to assess the impact and effectiveness of a project. Remember, this would be what is known as KPIs in the private sector, right? So KPIs are, let's say you're creating a product or a project, These are the indicators that will show that this project is doing well, this product is doing well, this service is doing well. So now when we come into the NGO, or let me just use NGO sector because that's commonly known, but NGO is just like a sector of the entire development sector. So in the NGO, in the development sector, what's it called? Impact is the currency. An organization that is doing well is the one that is able to measure, communicate, and effectively evaluate and learn from their impact. So basically, there are people who actually do these roles of monitoring, impact, evaluation, and assessment, and it's just being able to say that, okay, we've said we want to do a project where we want to donate mosquito nets to communities or to newborn, to nursing mothers or whatever, in, let's say, in Kakamega County. So monitoring, evaluation, impact, and learning is basically assessing this project, what impact has it had in that community. Another terminology is PPP, public-private partnerships. So remember, for a project to be successful, you need different people coming together to help achieve that project. So public-private partnerships here is when the government comes together with the private sector to work together to achieve united goals. Then we have funding mechanisms. Again, the business model, for lack of a better word, the business model in the development sector is one whereby, unless it's just like the consulting firms or the social enterprises, mostly the biggest funding model, the most common one, is that which you receive external grants, whether locally or internationally or regionally, to implement a project. Even these grants are the ones that pay for salaries. These grants are the ones that pay for rent, for office space, etc. So funding mechanisms in the development space is that one which I've said, grants. So grants is, just think about it, is like someone giving you a loan, but then you're not returning the money. So it's not like a business where you get a loan from a bank or a SACCO and then you're supposed to return it with the interest. This is just, they give you money to implement a project and that's that. And then you report to your donors or whoever's given you the money. But also there's something called crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is, let's say, the common one, let me just say, it's like kuchanga, right? So let's say I would say I want to build a school for a certain children's home in my community. So I create a campaign, I put like payment details like M-Pesa pay bill, and then I ask people to do what? I ask people to donate money. So different people donate. Some donate $2, others $10, $100, and then that money is consolidated and then it goes towards that particular activity. We also have microfinance. Microfinance is usually like small loans that are given to businesses, let's say women groups or these small businesses and SMEs, to help them scale up their projects or their businesses, etc. Then there's also something called impact investing. So impact investing, this really goes into like the social enterprise. So let's say I have a social enterprise. Let me use She Goes Digital for example. So we are providing skills and trainings for women so that they can make money from the digital economic space, right? But then we get to a place where we're saying we want to charge for these courses such that we can also be sustainable, and I really encourage organizations to do that. So social impact investing is whereby an investor comes and they're like, I like what She Goes Digital is doing, but maybe we are not scaling up. Why? Because we are limited with funding. So they invest their money into She Goes Digital, which is a social enterprise, by the way, we are company limited by guarantee. And then we use that money, let's say, to create better courses, to get better online platforms where we can create these online courses. And then the profit that we make, we return dividends to the investor with interest. Another terminology, I think you've heard impact everywhere, is social impact. So social impact is just the basic, the positive effect of an initiative in a community. Like impact, like whatever you're doing. For example, if you touch a hot pan, you're going to get burnt, right? So getting burnt is the impact of touching a hot pan. So let's say if I say that She Goes Digital is training women on digital skills, what is the impact of that? Literacy, right? So let's say if you're training people on digital marketing, the impact of that project is literacy on digital marketing. Yeah? So that is what social impact means. Another terminology is SRHR. It's a very common, but then there are so many, like, what is it called? There are so many abbreviations. I think I'm going to do like a documentation and put all the abbreviations in the development space so that it could guide you guys. So I promise that in the next video, I will have that guide ready and you can just download it on the description box below. SRHR is sexual, reproductive, and health rights, and this is basically mostly in the health sector, and it's the right to make informed decision about sexual and reproductive health, both for men, for women, for boys, for girls, for children. This includes things like contraceptives, maternal care, prevention from sexually transmitted infections, things like vaccines against cervical cancer, etc. Digital divide. I like this word so much. I'm in that space of ICT 4D. Digital divide is the gap between those with access to the digital devices and services and those that don't have devices. So think about it like a gap, right? So those that have devices, computers, internet, and they can afford. So it's about access and affordability. So those who have access to computers, they have affordability of data are here, and those who don't have are here. So this space between my hands is the divide. And so there's this term called bridging the digital divide. Bridging the gender digital divide is basically making sure that the gap between those that have devices and those that don't have devices is reduced. Another terminology is concept note. Concept note, I'm telling you, especially if you're working in the projects department, you need to learn what concept note is and how to write a good concept note. Because every time a project or activity is being done, you need to do a concept note. You're hosting a conference, you're hosting a session, an event, concept note. You're doing a one-day activity, concept note. So concept note, this thing concept note, what is it? It is a short document outlining a project idea, objectives, impact, and implementation plan. So let me give you an example, right? So Kictanet, for example, was hosting a booth at the Data Privacy Day in Eldoret, right? So me as the data governance lead, what did I do? I created a concept note that is explaining that, okay, so International Privacy Day is on this and this date, and as a result of that, Kictanet is going to host a booth in the privacy conference to create awareness about the work that we are doing around advocating for data privacy in Kenya, right? So I will write an introduction to that project, a background, like contextualizing the problem, and then objectives is usually numbered, outcomes is usually numbered, and then like a program lineup, if it's a program lineup, etc. Maybe a draft budget, but draft budget is usually internal. So, but the concept note is usually, let's say if you're organizing a session or a panel discussion, you're reaching out to speakers, you send them a concept note so that they can understand like where are you coming from. Another one is theory of change. Theory of change is a very common one when you're applying for grants. Theory of change, like donors love this one a lot. What is your theory of change? As an organization, what is this project's theory of change? So it's basically just a framework that is explaining how a project or activity is going to lead to long-term social impact. Okay? Long-term. So we are saying, okay, we want to do this project for the next 2 years or even 3 months, where we want to train women on digital marketing. All right, no problem. That's very fine. It's good to train, is it not? It's good to train. But now the question is, 10 years to come, how will this project impact the lives of these people? How is it impacting that community, etc.? AGYW, this is for people who are in the youth space, gender space. AGYW, we will see that a lot. Adolescent girls and young women. So it's a terminology coined in the development space to mean, so if a project is targeting AGYW, that means that project is targeting adolescent girls and young women between the ages of 10 and 24. If you have questions, reach out to me on email. I'm going to leave it in the description box below. I'm going to write it here as well. You can also just drop your questions in the comment section, and I'm definitely going to respond. And the next video we're going to do is how to get started in the development sector. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.